Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. Is it time for Arne Slot to go? Should Liverpool act now? Well, I'll give you my opinion on that in a moment, but what I will say is that there is a breadth of opinion, not just in the Liverpool fan base, but externally about what Liverpool should do after what is definitely a crisis. There's no point titling this video Liverpool in crisis, because we'll be doing it every week. They are losing a lot of games. They are performing very, very badly. And the question, as I said yesterday, has to be posed about Slot. But is it too soon? I think about football, inclusivity is very important. And when I look at Liverpool, traditionally, stereotypically, very proud city, very proud football club, I would say Liverpool fans would not be Slot out at the moment. You know, the traditional Liverpool fan that I view at. I would not expect them to be Liverpool out, Slot out. But football has changed, social media, the landscape, and there are Liverpool fans that are screaming Slot out because football's for everybody and you mustn't dismiss those opinions even if you disrespect them. So there are Liverpool fans in this chat and externally that are screaming Slot out, and that's what they want. Do I agree with that? Well, it doesn't matter massively because I'm not a Liverpool fan, but also I think you can get sense from people looking out. When I used to look at United and people criticising United when we had people like Solskjaer and Fellaini, when I saw a Liverpool fan saying, I hope you're going to give Fellaini a lifetime contract, I knew straight away we should be getting rid of Fellaini because they're saying it because they want us to use him, because they know he's not that good. So if I say I think you should give Slot a lifetime contract, that's probably a big indicator that you should get rid of him because I want him to stay. I wanted Roy Hodgson to get a lifetime contract because Liverpool were never going to do anything with him in charge. But looking at the situation with Slot, I actually think that having made this mistake so many times at United after a bad result, you sometimes wake up the next day a little bit calmer. And if you don't, you've got a problem because the aggression, the frustration, the drama instantly after a game is very different to when you've calmed down. Liverpool are in a mess. Something does need to change. However, I've got to say, I am not of the opinion that Slot can't turn it around, and I'm not of the opinion that he's totally safe. What I would say needs to happen at Liverpool is you need to have a little bit of a glimpse of what the plan in the board is, because one of the most important things Liverpool need is a centre-back. They wanted Gehi at the end of the transfer window and Palace pulled the plug. If their plan is to buy Gehi in January, why sack Slot? If you already have somebody lined up to be signed in January, why sack Slot and bring another manager in when you've lined up a signing? So I think that might be something that you have to consider. We're not that far away from the January transfer window. If Liverpool are going to spend in the January transfer window, they'll have already put things in place. You don't walk into the January transfer window and go, do you fancy coming? They'll have already put things in place. If they've already put things in place, that would lead me to think it's a bit silly to sack the manager now. You may as well go ahead with that transfer because that's part of the plan and see where you are at the end of the summer. I also think the manager market is horrific. And we have this with United as well. Sack Ten Hag, sack Amorim, sack Ollie, and you go and replace him with who? I don't care. That's not my job. Well, why are you saying sack him then? That's not your job either. There has to be a viable alternative. And if Jurgen Klopp's saying, I'll take the job tomorrow, maybe that's something that Liverpool fans would want. But where are you going next? I mean, are you really going to say Bournemouth manager's the guy to turn this around? I mean, that might not work. And sometimes you sack a manager and things get worse. So Liverpool don't strike me as the sort of football club that will knee-jerk reaction just because of the bad results and go and do something that might make things worse. They'd have to have a viable manager ready, and I'm not convinced that they do. I also think this is a bad time to sack managers. United have done it a lot, and it never has worked out, long-term or short-term. Ollie did well short-term, but long-term it wasn't a good idea. Rangnick did terrible. Amorim had a terrible first season, and we'll have to wait and see where that goes long-term. So I don't think it's a good time to do it. But the flip side of the coin is, what if Liverpool keep losing? What if they do lose to West Ham at West Ham next week? That becomes even more pressure. So it's all right saying, well, they might buy in January and there's not really a manager out there. The results have to change. And you look at Liverpool, especially against Forest yesterday, and you go, what's the excuse? What is the excuse? Okay, players don't look very good and they might suddenly get good, but there's not injuries there. there's all the problems we know that Liverpool have, of course, and you have to acknowledge them, but those problems will still be there. What I'm specifically saying is, if you sack Slot and you bring a new manager in, you better hope the new manager bounce works, because ultimately you're still going to have an underperforming Salah, an underperforming Van Dijk, an underperforming McAllister. You're also going to have underperforming new signings. You're also going to have, the emotional trauma and whatever that's done to the team in relation to what happened with Jota in the summer. You've also got the departure of Luis Diaz, Trent. All those things will still be there, even with a new manager. And if those are the reasons why things are going wrong, a new manager's not a miracle worker. So I've seen a lot of Liverpool reaction over the last 24 hours, and the ones that I find the most interesting are not the ones going Slot out, get him out now, this, that, and the other, because whilst that might be valid, it's also easy. What are you going to do after that? Who's going to come in? You're going to give it to Stevie G? May as well give it to Giggsy. It's that's the line that that United fan said years ago after Moyes. Give it to Giggsy till the end of the season. Give it to Stevie till the end of the season. Is that really a solution? But the Liverpool reaction that I find the most interesting is the Liverpool fan that's clearly fed up and clearly, upset. But is almost going, where do we go from here? And I think that's the scary thing, is like, it's easy to say sack the manager, but that might make things worse. What you need to do is figure out why it's going wrong. Now, if it's going wrong because Virgil van Dijk goes into the office and says, look, it's the manager. The manager is an idiot. We've all fell out with him. We've got no confidence in him. If you change the manager tonight, we'll start winning tomorrow. If that's the case, obviously. But I don't think Van Dijk's saying that to the board. I don't think that's being said at all. I think collectively there is a big problem at Liverpool Football Club, and I don't think it's as simple as Slot's the problem. But traditionally in football, that's automatically the knee-jerk reaction. Results are bad, sack the manager. But I think this runs deeper with Liverpool. I think this runs deeper than the manager. I think this is a club crisis. I listened to what Andy Robertson said after the Scotland win, and how he said, I couldn't help but think about my mate Jota and on what was a great night for Scotland. I've said this a lot over the last few months, that grief impacts people in different ways. And especially when you've got a squad of 25 players, you see people online going, well, it happened in the summer. They're professionals. They should just get on with it. And I'm like, oh my God, they're like 25 men with different emotions and different things going on. It only takes 4 or 5 of them to be absolutely messed up. And that's 4 or 5 of your team that's not performing to the level that they can. So that is a big thing. I don't know why people don't want to talk about that, by the way. I saw Jamie Redknapp talking about it, and he got absolutely rinsed on social media for it. It's almost like the world wants to put the Jota death in a cupboard and say that's really sad, but Liverpool can't be impacted by it. And I find that incredible. I find it absolutely incredible, because what people want to do is go, Liverpool are shit, Liverpool are really, really shit, and you're not using Jota as an excuse, you're shit. And it's like, I don't get that. Why can't it be part of the reason? Logically, it has to be part of the reason. And that's not being, what's the word? Grief merchants. Some people have called it that. I think if I played in a football team and we were really close and we'd won things together and one of my mates died in a car crash, I would be reevaluating my thought process on everything, and it might impact me for quite a while. I think that's normal. That could be part of the reason. I also think Luis Diaz and Trent are big losses to a Liverpool side, because they are consistent players that consistently delivered. On the other hand, Van Dijk and Salah dropping off form-wise for whatever reason, that's 4 players that are performing well last year and crap. That's nearly half a team. Alisson has been injured. He's only just come back. That's nearly half a team. McAllister's not performing at the same level. That is half a team. The new signings have come in. They're not performing either. So you can say Slot out, but everything I've just mentioned is still true. All the new signings aren't performing well apart from Ekitike. Half the team that won the league aren't performing well. And also 2 or 3 players, Trent, Jota, Diaz, they're no longer there. Change the manager and all those problems are still there. What if it's not the manager? What if this is a Liverpool Football Club problem? And also, let's not forget the road less travelled, where you don't sack your manager. Because a year ago, Man City were pretty much in the same position. They'd won the league, everyone expected them to win the league again, and then inexplicably, it all went wrong. And I personally think that was because Rodri got injured. One thing. Other people were injured as well, De Bruyne, but I think the Rodri injury derailed that team to such an extent that it felt like they were getting beat every week. So it has happened before. And look at Man City now. This season is fast approaching a write-off for Liverpool. That's the problem. And it's how they right the ship. Personally, I think you have to start having the conversation about Slot because bad results lead to managers being sacked. I think Liverpool need to try and survive till New Year. And if they're buying players, you've got to stick with Slot. If they're not planning on buying players and the results go badly, then again, I would say by Christmas, you need to have somebody lined up. And that's where it is at the moment. So for me, this is not a sack Slot on Monday morning. This is about what you're planning to do in January, what are the results going to be in December, and then you evaluate what you're going to do. But I actually will say this. When you analyse everything from the summer to now, I don't actually think Liverpool with a new manager, it suddenly changes. I think a lot of the problems run deeper than changing a manager. Let me know your thoughts. Get your comments in below. Don't forget we're live for the North London derby this afternoon as well. Take care, stay safe. I'll speak to you on the next one.